Alright, just making a video for basic outdoor edit and an indoor edit. So what I've chosen here, in Bridge, I've chosen this shot for the outside. Obviously I've just untick that. I've had brighter ones, but I've chosen to start on this one, then move to this one, and then to this one, just so the brightest part of the roof is exposed decently. And in the indoor one, I've started on this one, fairly bright and clean on the floor, down to this one, down to this one. Now the roof is sort of where I want it. First flash up and then a bright flash up to get a bit more lift in the room. So basically what I do, I'll bring them all in together, select them all and edit them in Camera Raw. So the first thing I normally do is have my highlight warning on, which is the red telling me there's blown out pixels, and normally when you recover here you never go past halfway. You start dragging it up here, the picture starts to go a bit lacking contrast, so halfway is about the maximum on each photo. There's no darkness for me to lift, so there's no fill light to do. If I hit fill light it starts to go pasty. There's none required here. Next one, select the next image down, and the warning or the highlight clipping is less, but I still try and take it out by about half. You can see some sky coming back in now, and a little bit of fill light because underneath the eaves of this house is starting to shadow, so a little bit of fill. And then the third one's going to have less recovery required, but more fill light. Again, not past halfway with the fill. If you feel you could go to get more lift in the fill, you give it more exposure, which is cleaner. Anyway, you'll learn your adjustments. Those three are now done. Go to the room, highlights. This happens pretty quickly. Recover them, next shot down. Recover the highlights, start to lift the shadow on the next shot, which is a bit darker. Come to the darker one, start to lift the shadows again. To the flash up shot, again a bit of shadow lift there. It's really just adjusting to what you visually like to see, trying to get the photo perfect on each slide. This one needs a bit of recovery. Boost of colour just because I know I'm going to work outside that window. That's about it. Once you've adjusted all of your images, you select them all and you open them in Photoshop. You just click open images. Once they're all adjusted, the whole house, we do a whole house adjustment each time. If it's 5 rooms, then there's usually about 30 or so shots. Anyway, they open up in Photoshop. And they open in the, I guess, the same order that you photograph them. And here comes the trick. So it's all working in reverse now. The last shot you took is the first shot you work on. And they're all stacked on top of each other, which is pretty easy. So what you do is you click on the top bar, you drag it down out of the way. Then you grab the layer, you drag it across the next picture, and you press your shift key and let it go, and it drops directly on top in the center. Bang. And then that means you've now got 2 layers. You grab that top bar of the 2 layer set, you drag it down, and then you highlight with your control key to make sure the 2 layers are selected. You drag them both across, and then you press your shift key and you drop on top of the next picture. And what's happening is they're all dropping on perfectly. Drag that one down, select or control click to gather all 3 layers, drag them across. Now if I don't press the shift key, this is what can happen. They land offset. Doesn't really matter because the next step will fix all that. So it doesn't really matter if they're not lined up. You see your layers over here are out of alignment. There's one more, so let's drag that one down. Grab all 4 layers, highlight them all, drag them across, drop them on top. So again, I've made a very sloppy job here. They're all over the place, but essentially all you do now, there are no more photos for this room. We go up File, and we go, I believe, hang on a minute, it's Edit. Here we go. I normally have shortcuts, I'm trying to remember without shortcuts. So it's Edit, Auto Align Layers, press that. And we want to just do it on auto So just click OK, and it aligns all the pixels up in all the 5 layers we have and makes them all in the same alignment. There's no movement on this photo. When you get movement, you'll have a little white frame around the outside, and there's very, very little movement in this shot, which is great. Then what you do is each layer you need to layer mask, and we need to hide all. So basically you're going to hide all the layers under a layer mask. So you go layer mask, hide all, bang. Do it to the next one, layer mask, hide all. Now I have a shortcut which makes this all happen at once. It aligns all 5 photos and masks them all off in one go, just a one press of one button, but I'm trying for the exercise to show you where all these tools lie. Okay, so the next layer, layer 2, we highlight that, go over layer mask, hide all, and layer 1, layer mask, hide all. So basically these 4 top layers are now invisible, and we can just see the background image, the very first shot that we took of the room. The background's the only layer I can physically see now. The others are masked off. So obviously with masks, when it's black you brush white and it works in opposites. So we select the brush, we usually make it nice and large, and we make it as soft as we can get the brush, not a hard brush, soft brush. And normally when you're starting your blending of layers, you're working on about 25 to 30% of the opacity of the brush. And all you simply do is brush on, make sure that you're not select the picture, you select the layer and you brush in white, and you start to brush the highlighted areas and click, 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 lots of clicks, click, 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 click. It's like a little spray gun going to work. It's either click or click and drag the areas. You'll get very clever at now if I switch that layer off, you'll see where it went from there to there, from there to there, just in me brushing in the next layer. I'm bringing down a darker exposure on top of, or I'm making, if you look at the layer mask, the darker exposed image, I'm revealing it. The white is what parts of it are revealed over the top of the original. Now I'm going to step up to the next layer. I'm going to do a little bit more brushing because I need a little bit more. Click and drag and click and drag and click and drag. Down here, that little bit of burn on the table. And I just try to make the photo perfectly exposed in all areas that I can. Okay, and you can see on that layer mask how much I revealed of that image. Now I'm going to the first flashed image. I rarely touch the roof at this stage. I just work on the window, and I up it to about 50% because I need a fair bit of the flashed image. So I'm bringing that window back in, click, 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 click many times. If you look at my layer mask over here, it's virtually 100% brushed back in of that layer. And I start to get my floor back now, and these burnt areas. And you control all the shadows in the corners now. Starting to come around. Okay, the window's not enough yet, so I'll go to the top layer where I know the window is. Start to work in a smaller area, and I'll go 100% on this window, just brushing inside it. 100%. Every little bit of outside, I want to say. Not too bad. So I have a fair bit of natural light falling across the bed, a little bit on the floor. I could probably take that off if I want to go back to 50%. It's all adjustments, and here comes the colour in the floor, the colour on the table. And if you go overboard, you simply change back to black, and you brush back in the layer mask. Go back to white, and you brush it out again, so you can literally just keep going on and off with it. Let's have a look. I'll just bring that roof in a little bit, just a little bit around through there, and that is pretty good. Once I'm happy with the image, I've got all the layer masks revealing bits and pieces of all different photos. I flatten it, which is I believe it's layer testing me now because I have all flattened image. There it is. layer flatten image, and it flattens them all. And then I auto level it, which image adjustment. Auto levels. Okay. And when I look at my histogram down here, it's a little bit short on the right side. In other words, the image is a little bit underexposed still. So if I go Control L, brings up my levels, and I'll always bring the clip back and watch what happens to the photo. It just gives it what we call a zing. A nice, clear, clean, crisp image, bringing that back to where the information of the photo is. Click OK. I'll hit the saturation key, which I have as a shortcut, and I check it for straightness now. I'm happy with the exposure. And to do any straightening, I simply go Control A, which selects the whole image. And then I usually go F1, which is my shortcut. But I think if I try to show you, it is in the layer, image adjustments, edit, where are you? Free transform, distort. I have it as a shortcut as F1, if you notice that. Edit, free transform, see my shortcut here is F1. I've given it a shortcut. So all I do is press F1 and I get these little toggles which allow me to distort the image. All I'm going to do is pull my sides out a little bit, just a touch, nothing major, because if there's any missing or overlap bits that didn't work, Control D, and that wardrobe is just tilting in at the bottom of it, so I'll go Control A, distort again, just pull that out a little bit, just to straighten it, enter, and that is finished. Clean, clear, colourful, ready to save. So there you go. We'll do an outside now. I'll just delete that off, don't save. Now the outside, very similar. So here we've got darker one sitting on top. We drag it down, drag the layer across, shift, click and drop. Drag the two layers down, highlight the both layers, drag them both across, shift and drop. There's no more for that picture, and there they are. Now I'm going to use my shortcut now, which is my F2, and watch what happens. F2. It aligns the layers and then masks off the very first one. All I simply do is mask off the second one with a shortcut. So essentially, they're lined up, they're stacked, the two top ones are masked off. I select my brush at about 30%, which it usually is sitting at, and I start to brush in, tick, tick, click, 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 clicking and dragging across my roof, which is the brightest part. A little bit under here where the walls and that are. I'm going to put some grass in anyway. I'm actually working on the top image here. Sometimes I'm going to go 100%. So I probably won't even need that middle image. I'll do a bit on the middle, through the middle here. It's actually looking a bit dark. And it's just to your taste. Okay, that's it. That's all I need. Flatten that. Auto levels, which is a shortcut. And when I auto level it, that went quite dark. So I've got a shadow lifter. And when I hit this brush with a shadow lift, it lifts all the little shadows. Lots of shortcuts in Photoshop, which I have to set up for you. There we go. Alright, we're flattened. Now we're going to add the sky. You do that by selecting the magic wand, and you always have a tolerance of 18 pixel, 18 brightness levels. Always start at the brightest area, click, and you see what it's gathered. We want to add to that a range of 18 more pixels, and you keep clicking through your sky, all the different brightness levels, until your whole sky is picked. What do we got here? Add to selection. Contiguous. You can't have contiguous. Let me start that again. If you have contiguous, it means that all the pixels will be joined together. We want uncontiguous. So any part of the image gets selected. We just Just keep clicking in all those areas that haven't been gathered yet. The white areas, the sky is getting completely selected. But also, if I zoom into that, must be, yep, click on that. So that's pretty much the whole sky, but it's also gathered the house. So that's fine. What we do now is we select the lasso tool, which is this one, and we subtract, set the setting to subtract from our already current selection. I'm going to zoom in, and we always draw this along the line edge of the roof. And it's quite a detailed little job, this, when you have a roof like this. So essentially everything underneath what I select will subtract from my already selected roof. You'll see what I mean. I'm going right along the roof edge, keeping what I want above this selection. I want everything up there within those trees. And I want none of this. So as I go around my full picture, all these pixels will be subtracted back to the beginning. Bang. All the pixels that weren't in that, all the pixels that were in that selection were subtracted from the full selected area. So in other words, we've just got sky now. We go back from full screen. I go to my sky folder, double click. Here's my sky folder. I might pick something like this one. That's fine. I go Control A to select it all, Control C to copy it, move it out of the way. Now if I go Control Shift V, it will paste it into that selected area, or I can go Edit, Paste into, which is Control Shift Control V. It's another shortcut I've created. Bang. And there it goes, it lands within the sky area. When I move it, it just lives in the selected area. Obviously it's not big enough, so I have to Control T to transform it, stretch it out. Try and find a spot that it looks good. Obviously down here, it's too abrupt, it's too upward, or sky looks like it's above you. You need to get a bit of that horizon sort of back there. Watching that you don't see some of Bella Vista. Actually that's Parramatta. We bring that down to about where we're happy with it. Once it's in place, we press enter, and that's it. Now ideally we have our background, which is our house, and our sky, which is sitting in that place. But when we zoom in and have a good look, the pixels on the edge generally have a white fringing. So what we do is we select the background image, and we go for this one here, which is the burn tool, and we want to burn the highlights, those white areas, probably 20-30% roughly. And essentially when you see in my burn, we don't want to burn too much because the roof will cop too much of a burn, but it just brings the, again, makes it a little bit more natural. This is a pretty good cut in that I've done. You can just give it a little edge, take any white fringing off. Yeah, this is a good one. Sometimes you have shockers. Around the trees you can burn in a little bit if you feel there's a bit of fringing there. It really just comes down to every image is different. I sometimes press the saturation key and saturate my trees up to get a bit of green in them. And that is about it for the sky. We flatten the image by pressing F12, that's my flatten key. And now I'm going to very, very quickly use my lasso tool again on add to selection, which means I can add that, and every time I keep selecting something it keeps adding. Whoop, there we go, keeps adding. So we're just going to go around this section here. So I'm going to start again. I need to feather this by 1 pixel, otherwise it looks too sharp. we're going to put some grass in. So I'm just going to go right around where I think the grass edge should be. Going to go up to the other side. Bit of a freebie doing grass because this house obviously has no grass. All the way down and around. Double click, and there is a selected area for grass. Go out of full screen mode, bring up my grass folder. I'm trying to select a grass that's not too close, a medium level grass. Something standing level. Let's have a look at this one. Standing level grass, not too bad. Control A to select it all, Control C to copy, get rid of it, and Control Shift V to paste it into my selection. Or you can go edit, paste into. Control T to transform the grass to make sure that I can put it in a place that I'm happy. So obviously when I do this, the grass is too big in the front here. It looks like it's straight in my face, but by pulling down, the grass blades get smaller and smaller, a bit more believable. So it's really your personal preference where you put it. Double click to set it, and there's some grass in the shot. Not brilliant because it's a very hard thing to cut it in and make it look very realistic. So it's really just not our fault they don't have grass. And we don't spend 20 minutes on. I'll just edit that little pipe out. And I'll flatten that, and I'll boost the color. Bang, bang. And doesn't really need much straightening. What you can also do is crop away, not that there's much. I'll just have a look and see. A little bit of a white fringe on the edge, you can see there. That means there's just a little bit of movement, not a lot, not enough to worry about. But to get rid of it, you can either distort the image like I did the last one, or you can actually simply crop it. The Mark IIs shoot at 60 by 40 at 72 dpi, so we run the crop tool right across it, and all you do is bring it in a fraction, tap it up, tap it across so that you've got a little edge cut right around the whole picture. Press enter and it trims away that little couple of millimeters around the whole edge. Any white fringing's gone, and there's the second shot. There you go. One sky, a bit of grass, and an interior photo. But I'll have to set up your shortcuts because there's a fair few to set up. But give it a go. And normally a silver job of 5 photos takes 15 minutes to edit, 20 at the most. So when you get down to that speed, you're in editing speed. 15-20 minutes to edit 5 photos. Cool. Bye.